Maduro is running. But it's not for exercise. It's not that kind of running. While you're watching this video, it's running. The United States has deployed more than 4,000 soldiers in the Caribbean. The American Secretary of War personally visited the troops and said, "This is not an exercise, this is real war."
Looking at the Caribbean on a floating island of American power, on the front lines of defending American soil, make no mistake about it, what you're doing now, this isn't training, this is the real world exercise.
Meanwhile, the most powerful general in Venezuela has a $15 million bounty on his head. And Maduro's personal jet was seized by the Americans. Maduro felt the pressure. Military experts believe he already has plans. The Venezuelan dictator may be preparing to flee the country at any moment. But here's the question that no one is asking. Will Maduro be able to escape? Will his own generals hand him over to the Americans? Well, the answer to that question is becoming more and more obvious. Let me show you something that happened on September 2nd, 2025. On that day, an American MQ-9 Reaper drone completely destroyed a speedboat in the Caribbean. 11 people died. Shortly after, President Trump released footage of the attack on his social media. This was the first shot of a war that had been planned for weeks. But this attack was not an accident. The boat had left from San Juan de Unari, a small fishing town in Venezuela that had turned into a corridor for organized crime. The Americans knew exactly what they were doing. They knew that boat was carrying drugs. They knew it was operated by the criminal group Tren de Aragua, and they knew this would be just the beginning. 3 days after that attack, Pete Hegseth, the United States Secretary of War, did something no secretary had ever done before. He personally flew to Puerto Rico and boarded the United States ship Iwo Jima, the flagship of an American fleet in the Caribbean. In front of thousands of soldiers, he spoke words that changed everything. And make no mistake, what you're doing now is not training. This is the real-world exercise. In the name of the vital national interests of the United States, that sentence revealed the truth. It was no longer just about fighting drug trafficking. It was an open war against the Maduro regime, as the numbers show. 4,000 American soldiers are now in the Caribbean. 3 destroyers, the amphibious assault ship United States ship Iwo Jima, submarines, P-8 reconnaissance aircraft, and now 10 F-35 fighter jets being sent to Puerto Rico. This is the biggest concentration of United States military force in the Caribbean. The 1983 Grenada invasion. Looking at all this show of force, it's easy to see why Maduro is very worried. But what if I told you there's something even scarier? Watch. The Americans are not just surrounding Venezuela from the outside, they're attacking from within, attacking where it hurts the most, the money of the Venezuelan generals. Let me explain how this works. In Venezuela, the generals aren't loyal to Maduro because of ideology, most people think. They're loyal for just one reason. Money? Money. The so-called Cartel of the Suns, formed by the Venezuelan generals themselves, controls drug trafficking in the country. They make millions of dollars by facilitating the transport of cocaine from Colombia to the United States. It's a billion-dollar business that sustains the regime. But now, the Americans have discovered something brilliant. Every sanction they impose, every operation they carry out, not only weakens Maduro's government, it directly reduces the personal profit of the generals. That's what experts call the dilemma of loyalty and profit. The more American pressure, the less money for the generals. And generals without money start to have dangerous ideas. Venezuela is a
big source, and the reason why is the following. And I saw a lot of that report, and it's a fake report. I'll tell you why. They claim Venezuela isn't involved in drug trafficking because the National Union denies it. The National Union? I don't care what the National Union says. The National Union doesn't know what they're talking about. Maduro is convicted by a great judge in the Southern District of New York. That means the Southern District. New York showed evidence to a great judge who convicted him. Then came a superseding indictment. You saw that there was a year and a half before that specifically detailed Maduro's actions. So number one, let there be no doubt. Nicolas Maduro, is an indicted drug trafficker in the United States, and he's a fugitive of American justice.
Vladimir Padrino Lopez knows this better than anyone. He is the Minister of Defense of Venezuela, the most powerful man in the country after Maduro, and also the man with a $15 million bounty on his head, offered by the American Drug Enforcement Administration. $15 million. That's more money than many Venezuelan generals have seen in their entire lives.
Happy Sunday to the entire Venezuelan family. September 7th, 2025, gathered with all my brothers. High Command of the Bolivarian National Armed Forces in the bunker, evaluating and assessing all operations deployed across the national territory.
Padrino Lopez, indicted by the Americans for facilitating cocaine transportation. He knows that if Maduro falls, he may have two options: flee or negotiate. And negotiating could mean handing over Maduro in exchange for a deal with the Americans. That's why, in recent days, Padrino Lopez has been making increasingly desperate speeches. He appeared in a military bunker, which looks more like a movie set, talked about traitors, about division in the armed forces. His own words reveal the fear. The danger cannot attack the institutions. The concern is that this could cause division in the Bolivarian National Armed Force. In other words, he's afraid that some general might decide it's time to remove Maduro from power, and Maduro also feels that pressure. His response so far clearly shows that. He mobilized 25,000 Venezuelan soldiers, but they're not active soldiers. They're reservists, men who have already served and were called back. The real reason for this mobilization isn't to defend the country from the Americans, it's to keep the armed forces busy so they don't have time to conspire. Venezuelan military experts confirm this. Maduro is giving everyone tasks. Is it because he's afraid the generals might get ideas? Can you imagine what kind of idea he's referring to? His strategy is simple. If you keep everyone busy carrying out operations, no one has time to plan a coup. On the other hand, it shows us how fragile Maduro's situation is. A dictator who needs to keep his own troops busy to avoid betrayal. He's not in control. He's just surviving. And that brings us to his escape plans. The signs that he's getting ready to flee are everywhere.
Nicolas Maduro could be eliminated or detained at any time. What future could await the dictator?
Look, frankly, that will depend on him. If he insists on fighting and acts like he says, thinking he's so tough, thinking he can stop us, then he's going to have to fall.
In September of this year, Americans confiscated Maduro's personal jet, a Dassault Falcon 900X, which was purchased illegally, violating American sanctions. It wasn't just any plane, it was the plane Maduro used to travel, his personal escape route. This adds to another case, even more revealing. Last year, a Venezuelan Boeing 747 was seized in Argentina. The plane had left Venezuela bound for Colombia, but had problems and landed in Argentina. When the authorities investigated, they discovered it was a sanctioned plane. Even worse, Iranian passengers were on board, a cargo plane with people from Iran. Now, stop and think for a moment. Why would Iranians be traveling on a Venezuelan cargo plane? The answer is surprising.
The plane belongs to Intrasur, a subsidiary of the Venezuelan company Conviasa, under sanctions from the United States Department of the Treasury.
We're talking about a criminal network, and it serves a big purpose: supporting Maduro. Look, Venezuela is not just a base. Drug trafficking is a base for Iran and Hezbollah to operate. In Latin America, Iran built drone factories in Venezuela, and Hezbollah launders money from Venezuelan cartels. In exchange, they share the profits and finance operations in the Middle East. It's a global criminal alliance. The Americans know about it, and that's why they decided to put an end to it. But perhaps the clearest sign that Maduro is preparing to flee happened in the last few days. The Venezuelan Socialist Party announced an urgent meeting for September 11th and 12th. The objective is revealing. They want to decide the next proposals and missions for the new stage of the country. In other words, this means that they are desperate and that they need to appear to be in control of the situation. When dictators start scheduling urgent meetings, discussing vague things like planning the country's future, it's usually because they have nothing to plan. International pressure is also increasing. The International Criminal Court is investigating Maduro for crimes against humanity. Since 2017, Venezuelan activists have been on hunger strike in front of the court, demanding arrest warrants. And now, Trump has canceled the temporary protected status for Venezuelans in the United States. That means Venezuelans who are in the United States can be deported back to Venezuela. It's pressure from all sides: military, economic, legal, and diplomatic. But the big question remains: will Maduro be able to escape, or will his own generals turn him in? The answer, well, it might be in a conversation that Trump had with journalists last week. When asked if he would consider attacking cartels inside Venezuela, Trump responded enigmatically, saying,
What are you going to think about that?
"You will find out." I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I said, "You will find out." Recent history shows us that when it comes to Trump, that kind of language is from someone who already has a plan in action. Here's what makes this situation unique recently. For the first time, a Latin American dictator is facing a storm from all sides. External military pressure, internal fragility, criminal allies being dismantled, and generals calculating whether it's better to defend or hand over Chief Maduro. Well, he's literally racing against time. With each passing day, American pressure increases. Every American military operation reduces the profits of the revered Venezuelan generals. Each sanction makes it harder for him to maintain the bought loyalty of the armed forces. Ironically, Maduro built a system where his strongest asset turned into his biggest weakness. He bought the loyalty of the generals with crime money. But now that the Americans are targeting exactly that money, their loyalty is being severely tested. Imagine the situation of a Venezuelan general today. He has two options: continue defending Maduro and watch his profits disappear with the American operations, or turn Maduro in and maybe get a deal with the United States. For a general who only thinks about money, the math is pretty simple. That's why military experts believe that Maduro has escape plans ready. After all, every dictator does. But few have been under so much external and internal pressure. At the same time, the situation is so delicate that even neighboring countries are taking sides. Argentina recognized the Venezuelan opposition as the legitimate government. Guyana, which borders Venezuela, is welcoming the American military presence. Puerto Rico serves as a United States operations base. On the other hand, Brazil and Colombia are calling for moderation, but they are not willing to defend Maduro's regime militarily. Cuba and Nicaragua support Maduro, but they have no way to help militarily. China and Russia condemn the American actions, but they also won't risk a war with the United States because of Venezuela. As you can see, Maduro is alone and he knows it. The question now is no longer if Maduro will fall. The question is, how and when? Will he flee to an allied country before it's too late, or will some general decide? Is it time to make a deal with the Americans? The answer to that question could come at any moment. Now, I want to know your opinion. Do you think Maduro will be able to escape from Venezuela? Or that his own generals will hand him over to the Americans first? Leave your answer in the comments. If you liked this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends. This really helps the channel grow and bring more content like this. Thanks for watching. See you next video.